Hi friends, welcome to day 2 of our Cards for Everyday card class. So we are using the beautiful Thistle bundle for all of the cards in this class. In order to get all of the card kits for free, plus the pack of adhesive backed Milky Dots embellishments, you just place a $50 online order using this host code at the link below the video. shoploveandstampin.com is the link you want to use. So yeah, you just shop with me, $50 before tax and shipping, and then I will get these card kits sent out in the mail to you. So here we go. We are going to make our second card. I have my stamp that I'm going to use already positioned here, and I'm going to just ink it up with my Stays On ink. I want a really, really strong, solid image. That's why I'm using the Misty, to make sure I get that image really solid. And then I'm going to stamp it one more time because I want really nice, thick, dark black lines. And this will allow me to use watercolor. So I'm using basic white thick cardstock, which is not a watercolor cardstock. However, I'm not going to be heavy-handed with my water, so it's going to be just fine. You always want to use Stays On ink when you are stamping something that's going to require water, or a pigment-based ink that will be waterproof. So Memento Tuxedo Black ink is not waterproof. It will smear. So I'm going to use, that's why I'm using the Stays On. So as you can see on here, it says it's a solvent ink, jet black, and then it will tell you right on the back, fast drying solvent ink. And I think on here somewhere it says, yeah, so designed especially to use for plastic, metal, glass, ceramic, laminated paper, coated paper, and leather. So it's just something that stays on and it's permanent. All right, so Stays On, haha, Stays On. I wasn't even trying to make a joke. Okay. So we're going to start with Old Olive. These are watercolor pencils from Stampin' Up. And I am going to color the base of all of my leaves with this Old Olive color. So I'm just going in and very carefully coloring the base. And then we're going to use the water brush to move this ink. Now, one thing I want to say is when you are using any sort of pencil, watercolor or just regular colored pencils, keeping the tip really sharp is super important. So I have a pencil sharpener that I use. It's electric, and it is my favorite pencil sharpener, and I actually got it from the recommendation of Sandy Allnock, who is an incredible artist, and it's the one that she recommended to use, and I just love it. So I will link to it below this video, even though I'm not showing it to you here. I'll link to it below the video so you can see it. Okay, now the reason we are coloring just the base with the Old Olive is because that's the area that we want darker. And then for our leaves, we want anywhere that it's folding over to be darker, or that like is tucking under would be darker. And the beauty of the way this particular stamp set is designed is it's giving you that indicator with these little dash lines. So where the little lines are, where it's kind of like shaded looking when you stamp it, that's where you're going to want to put your darker color. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these little card classes that I've been doing. I really enjoy doing them. They're kind of have been refreshing for me because I'm able to do lots of different creative things and not feel too tied into anything specific. So you'll see in these card classes, I generally use different products. Like, yes, we're focusing on this bundle, but I'm going to try to incorporate lots of other different products so that you can see how you can, you know, play with things. All right, so now we've got my Granny Apple Green And I'm just gonna go in really light, like I'm using a super light hand. And I'm just kind of coloring over the top of everything here where the leaves are. I don't need a ton of pigment because when I add water to this, I want to be really careful that these colors blend nicely, but also that you can still see that there's a differentiation in color. What I don't want to have happen is for me to put water down and all the old olive just takes over everything. So I'm hoping that we pull this off, and that doesn't happen. So I'm going to show you some tricks. We've got our little watercolor brush here, and I'm pretty lazy, so I'm not even going to get up and get a paper towel. I'm just going to use this piece of scrap paper as my dipping and the back of my hand. I don't know why, but I usually use the back of my hand. And we're just going to go in and we're just going to start to move some of this pigment around. And right away I can see I've got too much water flowing. So I'm just dabbing it off. Now, watercolor obviously is supposed to be somewhat free-flowing and artistic, right? Like that is what watercolor is. It is not intended to be like this stringent, everything look perfect medium. However, that's who I am as a person. I like things very contained. I like to have a lot of control over my coloring. Let's face it, we have no control over our lives, right? Like our lives are just in the hands of the Almighty, in my opinion. And so the truth is, this is a place that I get to control the outcome. And so I prefer a less messy look where a true artist would probably come in and be like, you know, let that color bloom. That's what they call it, blooming, and let it freely flow, baby. But that ain't Wendy. I like my colors where I like my colors, and that's all there is to it. So I'm just going in here and softening these lines up. But you can definitely tell that I have managed to maintain the differentiation in the colors. So you get that beautiful shading, and you still have the nice light tips. So for the top, I've gotten out Melon Mambo and Flirty Flamingo. And I am just going to color my Melon Mambo all across the bottom here. You do want to kind of be careful here. This isn't all the way dry down below. So I'm trying to be kind of careful, and I'm going a little bit up high in a few spots because I want the darker to be at the bottom and the lighter to be at the top. So we're going to take Flirty Flamingo and just lightly color over the top. And then we're just going to take and soften all of that out with a little water. And it's just gorgeous when it all comes together, right? Okay, so that's it on my coloring. Now I'm going to set this aside for a minute while we work on the rest of the card, because I want this to dry out before we die cut it and do anything else to it. And when it dries, it will dry back just a little bit, meaning the color, the pigment will dry back a little, it'll get a little lighter. So then at that point we can decide if we want to go in and add more color. So we're just going to set this aside and work on the rest of the card. So I've got a piece of 4x5 1/4 Coastal Cabana cardstock, and this is one of the newer, I think it's called Cane Weave embossing folder. And I'm going to go ahead and emboss this. I gotta grab my big guy here. So the plate on the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine will tell you exactly what you need to use, which is great. So for a 3D embossing folder, I need plate 1 and plate 4. So we're just going to remove plate 2, put plate 1 down, put my cardstock in, and run it through. Now, we're gonna provide you the Coastal Cabana cardstock, but we're not gonna emboss it for you. So you get to emboss it with whatever emboss background you wanna emboss with. That's totally up to you. We're gonna leave that up to you. All right, so now that we have that done, I'm gonna take my Coastal Cabana ink, and I need a little scratch paper here. And you guys have seen me do this before. This is a pretty common technique for me. I really like this technique where I just go around the edges and darken the cardstock. And when you have an embossed image, I think this brings just a whole new level of beauty. Or I should say embossed cardstock, not image. I just think it's gorgeous. So hopefully you can see it on film the way I can see it in real life. But what this does is it almost creates like a halo effect where you're just getting this gorgeous darker edge, and then the inside just kind of has this beautiful bright brilliance to it. And there's just something about that whole look that really appeals to me. I just think it's beautiful. Okay, so now that we've done that, hopefully you can... I don't know that it's showing up on camera as well as it is in person because it is beautiful. So then we've got our card base. This is basic white thick. I pretty much only use basic white thick cardstock exclusively because I really like it. It's sturdy and it's what I like. I still have not gotten any of my Stampin' Seal in, so we're still using this big, bulky, massive thing. Anytime I have something embossed, I really want to put a lot of adhesive down. So, there we go. That's just going to go in the center. And then we have our little die cut here. Now this is from the framed florets. And what I've done is I'll show you yesterday's card. Since I didn't want to be wasteful, and this is just a fun tip for you guys, when you don't want to waste, think of ways that you can use all the pieces and parts from your die cutting. So when you die cut this piece out right here, you get this beautiful frame piece that has all these little ridges in it, but then you also get this internal piece. So I used the internal piece on this card, and I'm using the frame on this card, and that allows me to use all the pieces from my die cutting so that I'm not wasting anything. And it makes it easier for Miss Deborah to cut your card kits, I'll tell you that. Okay, so now we're just going to use glue, and we are going to center this best we can on our card base and glue this in place. And you just have all this beautiful texture. There's the texture in the background plus the texture here on our die cut. And then our last step is to finish off with our thistle. So we've got our little baby machine here. We're going to pull this die cut up, line it up here like so. You do want to be careful because if this is wet, which it's not, I felt it, and you put this Post-it note tape on it, if it was wet, it's likely to tear your paper. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to probably get my head in the video here, guys. Okay. And then we are going to just, oh goodness, die cut this. And then we are left with this gorgeous piece that we're gonna just pop up in the center, but we're not done. We have a couple more things we're gonna do. So I have dimensionals around here somewhere. I know it. Well, I'm just gonna grab another sheet because I don't know where the ones are that I had in my hand a minute ago. So we are going to just add some dimensional pieces. I really love these dimensionals because you can just cut them apart and they work great. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to use this beautiful, and you will get this little piece from us. We're going to provide this for you. So we've got this beautiful little piece of Starry Sky ribbon. And we are just going to tie a bow, if I can. Tying a bow on film is the most miserable thing in the entire world. I'm just telling you. I can't ever get them quite right. They always look a little wonky, you know. So we're going to do our best here. See how it just wants to be weird? If I wasn't filming right now, it would come together perfect. But because I'm filming, it's going to be a stink pot. Yeah, it just looks wonky and messy. Honest to Pete. Okay, we're gonna call it, because if I keep on with it, I could mess with it for the next like 10 hours and it's gonna get us nowhere. Oh, come on. Stinker. Okay, so there's that mess. Ah, guys. Okay, and then we have to add our little embellishments. I'm going to go with these guys here. And you know, you probably notice I always kind of just do the same pattern. It's just what I like. You do you though. I mean, if you don't like this pattern, if you want something different, you do it however you want to do it. But that's just, I really like that pattern. So we have that, and now we need to do our sentiment. So I got to grab my white cardstock piece. And then remember, we are doing cards that are just kind of everyday use cards. So this one says best wishes. So you could use this for a birthday card. You could use it for an engagement card. You could use it for a baby card. Like literally, possibilities are endless. I'm going to use that Night of Navy because that goes nice with that Starry Sky ribbon. And it'll kind of tie that in. And then we're just going to cut this down. You know what? I actually think I want this on a little circle punch. So I have... Sorry guys, I changed my mind all of a sudden. And we'll provide this little punch for you. I have this little 1-inch circle punch. It's an oldie but a goodie. This was a Stampin' Up! Punch that they retired. They retired all of their circle punches some time back. And I'm frankly not sure why, except that I think they weren't like selling very well anymore. But I really miss them. I kept all of mine. I never got rid of mine. And I use them regularly. Now where did my ink go? Oh, there it is. I set my ink aside and lost it. All right, so we're going to try this again. Best wishes. Right down in the center. And then I'm going to stick it here. But you know what? I just looked up and I saw this cute little strip. And I was like, you know what? That would be cute. Isn't that cute? So we're just going to cut. Let's see. See, this is sometimes like... Even though I already had a plan, like now we're just doing things. We're just doing things, coming up with ideas. So this is a little 2-inch strip. So I'm just going to glue that down. Tuck it in and glue it down. And then we're going to add our sentiment. And then this card's going to be finished. And you can pick up the project sheet over on my blog. It doesn't have a PDF, but it will have a project sheet. And that'll give you the measurements for everything. So that's free for everyone. But if you want to get the card kits, you have to place a $50 online order with me. And I will include those embellishments for free as well. The special host code is linked, and it is on the screen at the beginning of the video. And this card is finished. Isn't that cute? I love how it came together. So this is card number 2 in our card class, and you will get all of the pieces and parts to make these cards. Super fun. Thanks. Bye-bye.